Today on the Whistleblowers, what in the world is going on at the FBI? Dan Bongino, the deputy director, is out of that position. What happened to his promises to drain the swamp?
It is time for total personnel warfare. Pam Bondi, soon to be President Trump, soon to be Attorney General. Everybody's got to go.
I've got news for you. The swamp is not drained. It's stronger than ever. And the lack of any credible movement on the Epstein files proves it. I'm John Kiriakou, and this is the Whistleblowers. I'll be honest with you, I was at the CIA for many years, 15 years, and we definitely had our professional differences with the FBI. We respected their work, sure, but we didn't always like their methods. Now, I don't know what is going on at the Hoover Building. In fact, the FBI won't even be in the Hoover Building for much longer. It's going to be knocked down. Don't get me wrong, the FBI has had some recent successes, like the Arctic frost investigations or catching the January 6th pipe bombing suspect, but the rest of the track record this past year looks sloppy at best. Look no further than the catastrophe that has been the release, or the lack thereof, of the Epstein files. Most recently, viral videos revealed just how sloppy the DOJ's digital redaction of the highly sensitive documents was. A simple copy and paste and all the redactions just disappear. But the troubles run much deeper than that. The handling since day one, when social media influencers poured out of the White House, binders in hand of already released materials, should have told you that we were in for a ride on these Epstein files. Just tell me, does this look like two men confident in the official story?
Give me one logical, sensible reason we would not have. If you can think of one, there isn't. There in some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there. And I know people, I get it. I understand. It's not there.
Now, look, I'm not saying Epstein didn't kill himself. All I'm saying is that it looks like there was no plan, and the FBI and the Department of Justice have been on the back foot this whole time. Add to that what seemed like credible rumors that Dan Bongino and Attorney General Bondi were feuding over how to handle releasing the Epstein files. Then there's Director Kash Patel himself, who looks like a deer in the headlights much of the time. I mean, he actually said this.
No credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay.
And his public presentation with his girlfriend, not even his wife, his girlfriend, is completely unprofessional. He recently used a government jet to attend his girlfriend's concert, a practice that he had previously railed against. Now his girlfriend is suing ex-agents and even social media pundit Elijah Schaffer for defamation, for claiming that she's an Israeli honeypot.
As you guys might have already heard, I am being sued for $5 million by Alexis Wilkins, the sensational country music star who's dating current FBI Director Kash Patel. And unfortunately, due to this lawsuit, my family is now being threatened and our safety is on the line.
Not a good look for the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more ridiculous,
we are so excited to be joined by Kash and his beautiful girlfriend, Alexis. So I just want to clarify, you're not Jewish.
I'm not.
You are not from Israel.
No.
So how did we get to, are you a Mossad agent?
You know, that's a great question.
Where's her ring? Just to clarify, how often has he traveled to see you since January 20th? Has there been one moment where you're like, you can't make this up?
I'm going to humbly offer some advice. Don't go on what looks like dating shows if you're one of the top law enforcement agents in the country, or the top, and the Epstein files controversy is literally sending your deputy packing his bags back home. Well, there's a lot to break down today, so joining us today are my dear friends Coleen Rowley and Jane Turner. Both are former FBI special agents, and both are also noted, famed FBI whistleblowers. Welcome, Coleen and Jane. Great to see you both.
Yep. Nice to see you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for joining us. I asked this at the beginning. What in the world is going on at the FBI? Coleen, can you answer this? Can anyone really answer what's going on there?
You know, there's one more thing you left out of your introduction. Jane and I are now in the Minnesota war zone.
Oh, that's right.
Where ICE, the U.S. attorney has ordered, I mean, this is huge news. It maybe hasn't been, it was the top story nationally last night.
Yes.
However, it really isn't not known. The U.S. attorney has ordered the FBI to take over a law enforcement shooting that is normally within state jurisdiction.
Yes.
And six U.S. prosecutors have resigned. And then he took away the jurisdiction from the civil rights in Department of Justice. And apparently some of them are leaving as well. And he's ordered 25 JAG military attorneys to try to fill in the spots in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Oh my gosh,
goodness.
it's unbelievable what's going on. I have a feeling that this FBI special agent in charge has his head on a swivel and does not know what to do. He's probably going to try to follow orders, but it's a mess and a half here.
I have to tell you, I've never seen anything like this ever happen at the FBI before. And when Kash Patel was named director, I actually wrote an op-ed saying this was a good move because, like the CIA, the FBI needed to be torn down to the studs and rebuilt. That hasn't happened. Jane, why do you think Deputy Director Dan Bongino resigned his position? Was it because he couldn't tear the place down and rebuild it? He couldn't drain the swamp? It wasn't really that he really wanted to spend time with his family, right?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure he missed them greatly, as we all would if we were separated. But you know, John, Coleen knows that they can wall you off at the FBI in a New York second. And I'm sure that's what they did to him. He's been walled off, and, you know, whatever they want him to see, he'll see. You know, the FBI has faced serious declines in several key areas over the last several years, 20 through 25. And these include clearance rates, investigative priorities, and staffing and budget liabilities. So I really think the morale there has got to be shot. And I also have FBI whistleblowers on my podcast, Whistleblower of the Week, and it's just chaos, just pure chaos going on. And, you know, we've got a lot more whistleblowers coming out than ever before from the FBI, which is miraculous. I mean, before, you know, you'd never say a word, never, never.
That's absolutely true. I know for a fact that is true. Coleen, let me ask you a question about relations within the FBI. We've heard these rumors that Dan Bongino and Attorney General Pam Bondi just were not getting along. They were feuding over this issue of releasing the Epstein files. Do you think that that's true? And do you think that that is why a second deputy director was brought in to, I guess, to babysit Bongino?
It looks to me like a lot of the people that Trump has surrounded himself with, including Pam Bondi, but also many others, are all kind of, they have big heads, and they are all very interested in power. So it's not it wouldn't be surprising to know that there are clashes between these power mongers. Yes, the Epstein files, you described it perfectly, have been totally mishandled. And right now there is a bipartisan consensus for the files to be released, which actually has to, you know, the FBI has, I think they have people sitting in a room, you know, all going through with their magic markers, even though it doesn't work, to try to protect identities. And yes, I think they're on the back, you know, they've been backfooted. I wanted to say that I, like you, when Kash Patel was named, I actually thought, oh, good, because
Right.
he did a pretty good job trying to debunk the Russiagate false allegations. And I thought, oh, well, he had a good background. He was a former Department of Justice attorney. He was a former defense attorney. He had the experience. And also he called for decentralization of the FBI to put more power at the local levels rather than out of FBI headquarters. Guess what? Nothing he promised has come to pass. And in fact, he's flip-flopped 100%, as many of them in the Trump administration. So I'm rather embarrassed that I even tried to say that he was a good choice at the time, just like you.
Jane, Dan Bongino was supposed to be the guy banging the drum about cleaning house at the FBI, and not just the FBI, but other federal agencies as well. And he gets there, and nothing happens. But it appears, I mean, if you look between the lines, you know what Dan Bongino is saying privately. It looks like he's just kind of quashed while he's there. In the end, he resigns, and he retreats back to his podcast. He had only been in the position for a year. What do you make of that?
Well, it's nothing that all three of us haven't seen in our agencies. If they don't want you to know, you're not going to know. If they want to wall you off, they'll wall you off. And the morale is so low there. I'm sure it's very uncomfortable working there. The agents, they're just having such a crisis. You know, we're the hammer. And so the Department of Justice tells the hammer where to go and pound the nails, as you know. Same with the CIA.
That's right.
And now you got FBI agents, if you believe it or not, on the streets of Minneapolis and Minnesota doing just regular cop beat stuff. And this is not what they signed up for. But their salary's too good. Medical is too good, as you know. That's what holds whistleblowers back a lot of the time. They got to provide for their family. And, you know, you're making a six-figure income, but they're not happy. They are not happy. So I'm sure he got in there, Bongino did, and he found out it was not a bed of roses. And they were being directed to do things, like I said, you know, picking up the hammer and pounding the nails that he didn't agree with.
Coleen, we've got about a minute left in this half of the show. Bongino, as I said, was banging the drum on and on about the swamp. But from my perspective, it hasn't been drained. So my question is, I guess, more basic. Is it even actually a swamp? That metaphor gives you the impression that it can be drained, but maybe it's more like this vast ocean of corruption. I mean to say, is the swamp even drainable? Or do presidents just have to accept the fact that the federal bureaucracy is here to stay and it's not going anywhere?
You know, I agree. I once said tsunami instead of a swamp. And, you know, I don't think it's entirely the professional class in Washington. There is some of that. And certainly if you go back to the first Trump administration with Brennan and Clapper and that group, but I think now something different has happened with the Trump administration. And I think his being surrounded by loyalist cronies, many of whom have no professional experience, including now our U.S. attorney that was just confirmed in this fall, has no prosecutorial experience. And so you can understand why the morale in the U.S. attorney's office, and I'm sure this is the same in the FBI, it's very low. You have somebody giving orders who doesn't even know what he's doing. And again, 6 prosecutors resigned yesterday, which has never in Jane or I's experience ever happened before.
Incredible. Coleen and Jane, please stay right there. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have more with our 2 guests on what's exactly going on over at the FBI. It's actually pretty hard to understand. Stay tuned. You're watching The Welcome back. We're talking with our guests today as we try to figure out what is going on over at the FBI. With us today are former FBI special agents and renowned whistleblowers Coleen Rowley and Jane Turner. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Should we be concerned, Jane, that this constant media attention bordering on scandal is impeding the actual work of the FBI, the work of apprehending actual criminals?
I have no doubt, John, you just put your finger right on something incredibly significant. First of all, the public has their concern or their feelings for the FBI have dropped precipitously. I mean, it used to be up in the 60s and it dropped down to the 40s. And just all the bad publicity. I mean, Coleen was talking about ground zero here in the war. You have actual FBI agents out there doing patrol work, being screamed at, being yelled at. And, the days when an FBI agent was able to tell somebody, hey, I'm an FBI agent, and people would just be so amazed and want to know about your job. Those days are gone. I mean, now you're afraid to tell anybody because, we have been suffered a serious decline in reputation and in job responsibility. I mean, if you remember, we had criminal, which is what I was in, counterterrorism, and those were very, very big. And then criminal kind of lost out to counterterrorism. But now they've been put on the street. So counterterrorism has even suffered. And if the public's attitude is anything like what they're showing the FBI here, we're in deep trouble.
Wow.
Deep trouble.
And Coleen, what is it with Kash Patel and the optics that surround him and this relationship that he has with his girlfriend? Does he understand, do you think, how silly he looks when he brings this young girl around who isn't even his wife? She was there at his swearing in, and now he's referring to her as his life partner. Then he puts her on government jets and tells people just to suck it up.
While you were talking, I had something flashed in my head. Maybe he's trying to emulate Trump, and Clinton. All the photos we see with the young girls, maybe he's trying to be something like that. Who knows? When Jane was responding, I thought of a couple things also because these are big national news stories.
Yes.
But the fraud that has been uncovered and prosecuted in the past several months. And it's different things. It's not just daycares. It's during COVID, they created big pots of money for food assistance, and you're talking millions of dollars. It's my understanding from kind of reading about this that is actually our television station that uncovered it.
Wow.
Our CARE 11 is the one that uncovered the beginning of the Somalian fraud. And then, yes, the FBI did eventually work it. And that prosecutor, who now has resigned, was the big hero who actually has whatever. So it's just an example of the FBI not doing what they were supposed to be doing, which was working medical health care fraud, and all of these things were supposed to be the priority. And after 9/11, the so-called war on terror took the impetus away from the normal jurisdiction that the FBI was supposed to be working.
Jane, do you think FBI directors should be going on dating adjacent podcasts with their 18-year-old, or 18-year younger, I should say. She's not 18, but their 18-year younger girlfriends? I'm not going to say she's a honeypot. I don't think she is. I think the rumor about her being involved with the Israelis is just silly. But don't you get the impression that something odd is going on with Alexis Wilkins and her proximity to Kash Patel?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. There is something, a dozen bubbles off in this whole thing. And think of the agent who has to work underneath these clowns. How would you feel? So a lot of agents that I have been talking to on Whistleblower of the Week have told me that they're just keeping their heads down and hoping to make it to the pension. Mm-hmm. And he talked talked about, when you have the president talking about lowering the standards, you don't need a college degree to get into the FBI.
Unbelievable.
How do you think that makes an FBI agent feel? And so the job has been, and the investigations they've worked on, spent years on, like Coleen mentioned, the health fraud and other things, and then they're pardoned. And agents have spent years on these cases, and the president just pardons them, and all that work, everything down the drain. I mean, I can see why an agent would be sitting up there going, I'm not putting my hand up. I'm not going to take any cases. I'm not going to, get any cases going. It's not worth it. Just let me get my pension.
That's right. I could see that happening. I wanted to ask you, Coleen, do you see the FBI as a politicized organization, the way so many of us see the CIA as a politicized organization? Do you think that administrations, whether they're Democratic or Republican, use the FBI for political purposes?
I'm just going to tack on again to Jane. Who really ought to be outraged by how, really bad and deplorable the FBI has become are the taxpayers.
Yeah.
The taxpayers, we're at $39 trillion of debt. And yes, people hang on for the pension because it's pretty good, but you're not even working. People aren't even, again, that's who should be outraged. But going back to your question, what was your question again?
It was whether the FBI is a politicized organization, like the CIA is seen as.
The FBI, of course, J. Edgar Hoover. Okay, I'm going to say something good about him. I'm going to say something. He was adamant. No, the one good thing. Maybe it's the one good thing. He was very big on not making the FBI political to the point where he wouldn't even vote for a president.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, he did all kinds of other bad things. But, since then, whatever president is in power, you're right. They're give the orders, and the FBI has to be the hammer. And so if you're trying to rise up through the ranks in order to go through the revolving door, we saw this during Russiagate big time with all of the rubber stamping of false FISAs. They were doing that because they were following the leader. So, that's the problem. That it is politicized, but I don't think it's necessarily Republican or Democrat. It's the president who is in power at the time, and the people, the attorney general, etc.
Okay, well, I want to thank both of our guests today, Coleen Rowley and Jane Turner. As I said in the introduction, they are legendary FBI whistleblowers and longtime FBI professionals. Like I said at the beginning of this show, I definitely have my own bias when it comes to the FBI, but I'll be the first one to admit that the CIA has its own fair share of scandal, politicization, and just outright corruption. Trust me, I went to federal prison for almost 2 years for calling some of it out. But I don't see any other way. We need individuals. We need whistleblowers, and a lot of them at the FBI, the CIA, and anywhere else in the federal government where they have the courage to stand up and call out and cut out the rot. That's why the work of whistleblowers is so important. That's why we call this show The Whistleblowers. Well, that's our show for today. Please subscribe to my Substack at John Kiriakou. Stay informed, and as always, keep asking the hard questions. I'm John Kiriakou. Thanks for watching The Whistleblowers.